When she left, when the separation happened, she all of a sudden felt like this relief, and this sense of peace that all the stress, all the problems, I don't have to address it anymore. Like it became a habit of separating from the relationship, separating from the love, separating from all the things that we needed to bond and to overcome. That got easier to be put aside and to be ignored. I could be the best person in the world, but if she don't see it and doesn't, she's got this bias built up. I could literally show up with flowers and do something kind to her, and her mindset was, "Oh, this manipulative guy."
Yeah.
Like I said, it got fun. It got fun after a while because you see win after win after win, and the fruits of it. It's uncomfortable because it's not what I normally would have did. It's not what I normally would have said. But once that mind shift happened, now it's 100% normally what I say and do. So when she finally came back,
you just got to be coachable.
Corey, go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell a little bit about where you were when you and I first met and we talked.
Yeah, so name's Corey. And yeah, when I first met with Denver, honestly, it's been 7 weeks now. So I don't even really remember how we met, like how I found you, but
I don't either.
But I was in another program. I had, spent a fortune in this different program that wasn't bearing any fruit. And the guy who runs it and the people who run it were great. Like it's great information and it's definitely a long-term, mindset shift, transformation thing, but it wasn't helping at all with my relationship. It wasn't helping at all with the marriage and the amount of people that were in there that weren't seeing any improvement or any headway with the actual marriage itself. It wasn't for me, and there was no personal touch with it. I couldn't really ask questions. There was no, it just wasn't my pace and what I was looking for at all. And when me and you met, I was feeling slightly hopeless, honestly. It was, I knew the marriage should and could be restored if certain walls were put down. I had no freaking clue how to do it. I had no idea how to get her to see, my dedication and who I thought I was. Through the 7 weeks, I've come to realize that it was probably a good thing, who I thought I was and it wasn't fully ready yet to maintain the restoration if she would have given me a chance 7 weeks ago. So
the other program that you're talking about, did it teach you to make changes in yourself? I'm not overly familiar with that. Did it teach you to make changes in yourself? Okay. Mm-hmm. So why would you say, how long did you go through that program before you and I met?
Probably 2 months.
Okay. That's a good amount of time. That's like 8 weeks if it was a full 2 months.
Yeah, a little longer.
Yeah. So what would you say, or why, I guess the better question is, why would you say when you and I met after you had been through another program, was the other program designed to help in your marriage? Was that the intent of it? Okay. So why would you say after going through that program, and I'm sure doing some other stuff too, and you can explain that if that's the case, like trying to do things on your own and what you were learning in that program, why would you say the day that you and I met, why would you say things were hopeless then? Like what made you feel that?
Because I was feeling better about myself. The whole other program was basically you focus on removing the stress out of your spouse's life and only fill them with a happy. And while all that's great, it didn't address any safety. It didn't address any of the issues that we were having that were personalized. And it was a lot of working on the marriage. It was a lot of, you got to find these problems, work on this, work on that, work on this. And after 2 months, we were further apart. We got along better. Like we could talk and, she didn't seem as stressed around me because I was purposefully, like any stress related anything, I was taking it off her plate, just trying to remove it all and taking all the blame. But she didn't see me as any more desirable. Our relationship wasn't any better. Like our actual marriage was further apart. She was digging deeper into confirmation bias and digging deeper into, the image and the that she was portraying in this narrative of who I am and, what our future, there's the past was and what our future would look like. She was digging deeper into it every day. And it wasn't working. It wasn't going in the right direction. When I met with you, besides the track record, it was a clear path. And I like the accountability aspect. I like the ability to be able to throw situations out and, and ask advice live versus, well, all right, there's this video kind of related to this situation. If I spend a few hours, I could find it on this platform and maybe get an answer to something that's happening this moment or happening today or tomorrow. It's like, no, you've got full access to it. Go read it. Go find it, So with you, that was the main piece for me that, like, I know I needed a coach. I know I needed coaching and someone that
live Q&A calls, where you could just jump on and ask your own personal question. What's interesting, what you're bringing up about that other program, and I'm sure there's many programs that address the same elements. A lot of programs are very similar, is even in this program, psychologically, I understand the need. And it's actually one of the things that I kept in mind psychologically. And this program is 70% psychology.
Mm.
And so what we do here is go after the root, and the fruit just takes care of itself. The bad fruit just organically and naturally kind of dies.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really different here is that most other programs talk about how to address and deal with your problems. And I think that might have been one of the things that was attractive about what we do here, is when I told you that working on the problems is exactly what's not going to work, because that'll get you more problems. Yeah, you might learn how to communicate a little bit better, but if you hate each other, what good is that? You could be good co-parents. So explain a little bit about where you and your wife were. Like, were you in separation? Was there an active divorce filed? Like, where was she and where were you and where were y'all?
So yeah, we've been married for 10 years. And I'm sorry, we've been together 10 years. And we're separated for 6 months. So where she spent the entire summer away, so full 3 months where I didn't really see her or the kids very much, like maybe on the weekends here and there. Her family lives about 4 hours away. So she, kind of took off up there and used it as a summer vacation to justify, And so, yeah, we grew further and further apart, while she was healing.
How long was the summer vacation?
2.5 months. And the only reason she came back was school was starting. If school wasn't starting and the kids needed to go to school, she would have stayed up there, honestly. And especially, now that we're restored, we talk more. She straight up said, I would have stayed up there forever if it paid. She worked from home, so she could work anywhere. She could live anywhere. So yeah, she was planning to stay if it wasn't for the kids.
I'm really glad that you brought that part up, about that you guys had an actual physical separation, because a lot of people, when I meet them, they'll ask, maybe they're not even in the same situation that you were in, but they're having a rough patch in their marriage, and they'll ask, sometimes I'll do like an hour phone call with somebody who's not separated, but they're having some issues. And a counselor will recommend, I think you guys should do a trial separation. I never recommend that, because 100% separation is exactly what
it pulls you further apart.
That's what it's designed to do, is to pull you apart. So when you guys went through that, how did you see that you guys were, now it might bring peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like if somebody's no longer in the situation,
They're
of
not
course,
bothering you.
Yeah. I mean, you could quit your job, quit your marriage, and give your kids up for adoption, and you're going to have peace. That doesn't mean you're going to have a good life.
No.
But how would you say the intimacy disconnected with the actual physical separation? Like, were you guys recommended to have a separation? Did you do counseling also, or no?
Well, we started doing it when she came back. So throughout the whole summer, no, she got into individual counseling, and the counselor had her convinced of so much stuff. Like, it's insane, the stuff that never came out, but all of a sudden she got these diagnoses. When she left, exactly what you said, when the separation happened, she all of a sudden felt like this relief, and this sense of peace that, all the stress, all the problems, I don't have to address it anymore. And it almost became a habit. Like, it became a habit of, the separating from the relationship, separating from the love, separating from all the things that we needed to bond and to overcome. That got easier to be put aside and to be ignored. So when she finally came back, she had armored up. She had built up this giant wall. She had built up this army of people to defend her. She had built up all these terms and all these, these steps and boundaries that in her mind she was protecting herself, but all it did was grow us further apart. Like, she had a strict boundary that, hey, if I come home, the only way we're going to do this is if we nest where we're never sleeping in the house at the same time together, essentially. So I
So
was
describe a little bit more about exactly what nesting is for anybody that's never heard that term.
So we came up with a 50-50 schedule, essentially, where the kids, so we have 2 sons together. The idea is that our sons stay in the house and their lives aren't, discombobulated like ours is. So they stay in there, sleep in their beds every night, and mom and dad rotate in and out. So I'm in the house some days. She was in the house some days. When it was her nights, I would go stay with a friend or a family's house, and vice versa. She would go stay with a friend when it was my nights or my weekends. So, and there was some overlap where sometimes we got to spend time in the house together here and there. And those were major opportunities to, rebuild bonds and things like that I know not everyone has. But overall, it normalized the separation more. It normalized that this is, hey, we're not a family. We're not together. We're not working on things, and it forced her to be in situations and around people, because the only people in this area that she's close with were, for lack of a better term, were enemies of the marriage, were people that, that did not want her to work on things and, just did not encourage her. Anytime she had any hope or any kind of anything like that, they straight up discouraged her and even like scolded her at times, So it was just a lose, lose, lose thing that I felt like I was just like, when we met, that had been going on for almost 2 months. And that's a part of me feeling hopeless, feeling like, goodness, like she's there. It's just getting deeper and deeper. And there's so many more layers added on top. I have no clue how to get through all this. Like, I could be the best person in the world, but if she don't see it and she's got this bias built up, I could literally show up with flowers and do something kind to her. And her mindset was, oh, this manipulative guy, oh, he's doing this for him. Or, like nothing worked. Nothing was seen as truth. So yeah, meeting you was a godsend, because it changed everything once I started applying the principles and going through the program.
As I was writing this program myself, the steps, I wrote this in real life as I was taking them myself when we were separated for 6 months, 2,000 miles apart. And the same thing, we were in a physical separation, and then there was times or whatever. But I remember one time I showed up, because we had redeveloped a little bit of a friendship and left flowers, and you would have thought it was freaking like some type of chemical warfare that I was dropping off. Like,
it was like he dropped
it started the biggest crap show with like her family, and you would have thought
I was just being overly dramatic and sensitive. I thought, this is not the time for him to do this.
Well, so that brings us to the next question. So why do you think, after you've been through this transformation process, do you now see the perspective of where the enemies of the marriage, and there's always one enemy of the marriage and sometimes two, but there's always one main one, and there always is typically a second kind of halfway in one. But do you now understand that when those relationships are connected with the quote enemies of the marriage, it's usually another person that's miserable, or it's a family member, and the spouse that's wanting out of the marriage to put themselves in a good light, they will paint the picture a little bit more colorful than what it really is because they want to look good. And when they do that with bonding a friendship with an enemy of the marriage, the enemy of the marriage now becomes emotionally invested in your spouse, which it sounds like is exactly what happened. And so now they're BFF, and they have this intimate relationship that's hot and heavy. And so now they have feelings for your spouse, and misery loves misery. So they don't want to lose that misery that they have now joined with them. But they also develop an emotional connection with your spouse, and your spouse has enrolled them into this relationship is damaging me. It's hurting me. And of course, they don't want it restored because they want to protect their friend. And so how did you kind of, the normal thing is to kind of blow up when those people come into the picture. How would you say that this helped you deal with that? Which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I just kind of killed that story. Like, by actually going through the steps and all the stories she was saying, all the things that, the bias and all the narrative that she had in her head about everything, I just made it real. I genuinely went through the program, learned how to be positive, polite, and playful through all interactions, and, started empathizing more with her and seeing from her point of view. And over time, the triggers that she claimed she had and all these different things that were literally coached, like it came to light that every conversation I'd have with her, she was the enemies of the marriage. She would like screenshot it, text it to them, and ask how to reply. And over time, she stopped doing that when she saw, well, hold on, they don't really know what's going on. Like, this isn't real. This story, this person that I've made him out to be isn't real. And she started being genuine, started being kinder, and started being more understanding over time. And don't get me wrong, it's still a struggle for her. I can still see it. I can still see that. Because it's dug deep. It's dug really deep. It's been 6 months of confirmation bias and buildup, and I'm sure she's remembering things she said and did, and it's essentially like, of course.
Yeah.
So but it's made me a lot more patient with her and more understanding when I want to lash out or when I want to be like defending myself or judge her for it. I'm understanding. My good Lord, I can't. What else would she have done? Like, what else would she have said?
I know part of this process too is helping you understand through this transformation process, helping you understand that there's a price that she has to pay to re-enter the marriage. That's through family members, maybe cutting off the relationship with her, not agreeing with her, being very, very upset at her. Maybe literally, my wife's daughter, which was my stepdaughter, said, if you go back to him, I'm done. And she was done for 3 months. And they were best friends. Her daughter, her oldest daughter, they were best friends.
And we are still, but it was a hard patch.
Yeah, but how would you say that helped you understanding that there's a price to pay that was pretty expensive for your wife to, your marriage was just reunited literally a few days ago, not even 3 or 4 days ago. How did it help you to understand through the transformation process that there was a price that she had to pay to re-enter it? And even though, did you see that was a price she had to pay before? And if not, now that you do see it, how has that helped you help her back into the marriage, open the door?
So I knew sort of that there'd be some kind of a price to pay. And I just because my background, I'm like, psychology is fascinating to me. I love reading books on it and things like that. I taught courses on sales psychology, but it's fascinated me, but I knew that there's thoughts and things going on in her head that I wasn't fully comprehending, but I didn't think about it as much. And when I saw the examples and heard all the scenarios, it totally made sense. And a lot of some of the things she was saying and doing, I started to see that it's not, I don't need to take the exact words she's saying to the bank. Because what she's really saying is, hey, this is the pressure I have here. Like she kept saying, I feel so much pressure from you. I feel this, I feel like you're pushing your timeline. When it came to light, no, I feel pressure, but it's not from you. I want to make a change. I want to do things because I wasn't pushing anything. I wasn't asking, hey, come back, doing all this. It's just being me and following the program and being indifferent. But at the same time, she couldn't come back. There was all this pressure and this built up on her that if she comes back, she knew it was going to affect some of the relationships in her life that she really, really values, So by making it easier for her to do that and making the price to pay to not go all in higher than the price she had to pay to go in. This is Christmas time. And for her she didn't see her kids like our kids on Thanksgiving. And that was devastating to her, I know, but it was her choice because she wanted to have them alone on Christmas, which I didn't agree to, but that was her mindset. And she even said, hey, I know you haven't agreed to it, but I'm hoping that my goodwill in doing this, I'm not 4 hours away that not seeing the kids on Christmas Day is, nobody would agree with that. But regardless, yeah, exactly. But that was her hope. And for her to make the decision to move forward into the marriage again and give us all in, she knows, the day she told me that she was coming all in, she knew that she was sacrificing Christmas with her family, that she was, a lot of plans she had made and a lot of things. I mean, she got pie in her face essentially for it. And she's already all the triggers are going, all the things that, she said, I have these reactions around you, they're all gone. And she's making plans for Christmas. We're having a blast. So the price that she paid, that she is paying, like it's all I know now. All right, that's a heavy price she's paying. I've got to make the price that she's getting. I got to make the value in what she's getting for paying that price so much greater, so much better, so that she's not resentful for that. She's not bitter over that aspect. Like I know what to do now because I know what she's thinking.
Okay. Yes.
I really do love that.
I'm so proud of you. I know this is so good.
Well, I'm still amazed, even though the process is, we've been doing this for about a decade now of this being a 7-week process. In the beginning, it took longer than 7 weeks. It took 6 months. And as I got better as a coach and as a teacher and stuff like that, we've got it down to where it just works like a Rolex watch in the course of 7 weeks. But the fact that you hit that nose right on the head.
You were so coachable, though. It was, you really.
Because he went all in on the coaching.
Ready,
But he asked why. And understanding.
Yes.
See, love is not the reason marriages fail. No. Any marriage can be successful if you have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And when you ask why around something you don't understand, then it lands and it becomes permanent. This is where you have an actual transformation. You can go on YouTube and get information, but actual transformation, it happens in immersion to a new way of thinking. And a marriage can't be saved just with one person having a new way of thinking. Yeah. A marriage can be saved by one person. You're the prime example of that. But that one person, it's not about the changes that you make. It's about how you show up in your leadership to get her to change as well. And that's how we do that through about 60% psychology.
And it's not even manipulation. It's you.
It's not even a little bit
manipulation. No, it's you.
Yeah, no.
You're leading, and that's how it goes.
Corey, how would you say that this is not manipulation? Explain that.
So manipulation is doing something with the ulterior motives, doing something ungenuine, or doing something that, that you don't really mean, don't really, intend to do strictly to get an outcome versus like I knew going into all this, and I made it real clear to you before signing up and before joining the program that I wanted to do this because I know I had things I needed to fix. I know I had things I needed to remove and I needed to overcome to be the best overall that I could be. Like, I don't want to just get her back and then be back in the same boat. I didn't want my family to suffer through my drama and my issues. So it had to be real. Like it had to be real. The intentions were real. The action steps, all the results, it had to be real. Otherwise I'd be in this same boat 6 months from now or a year from now.
So how would you say this transformation, the teaching and the Q&A calls and everything, how would you say that this actually helped make it real in you and in your wife through your leadership? I know this is a weird question, but how would you say that?
So for me, I mean, I don't know how much everybody else asks. I have to understand the why behind everything. I have to understand the purpose behind it all. Otherwise, for lack of a better term, I'll half-ass it, and I've got to understand it all and really know the why behind what I'm doing for me to be able to perform and to do it. And I mean, all the whys were already explained. And if there was a step that was a personal coaching thing or anything like that, you always made sure that I understood the why behind it and the purpose. And then from there, I mean, it just was straight up application and making sure that I understood the purpose of not doing it a different way. That was a big part too that helped. So you didn't just say, hey, go do this. It was, if you go do the other, so go do option A. If you do option B, here's the result. Here's actually what's going to happen. So I didn't just understand the psychology and the why behind what I was coached to do. I understood the why and the psychology behind what I was coached not to do and why not to do it. It made massive difference for me so that the next time I'm in any kind of related scenario or any kind of related situation, I had that knowledge of, all right, well, that's not a result I want. This is the result I'm looking to get. Here's the feelings I actually feel that I'm trying to express, or the info that I need, whatever it is. This is how to accomplish it the right way, versus just shooting from the hip, going off of emotion, or, knowledge is power,
Corey, I remember when you first came into the program, I told you that if you'll be coachable, you'll see results really fast. And so how long were you in the program? So you done another program before you came here, and then you kind of DIY'd it because that wasn't working. You're in the other program for 8 weeks. I told you this was a 7-week transformation. You've done a bunch of stuff on your own, reading books, looked at counseling, been through a separation. Now you're nesting. And so you had actually went all in with other stuff, trying everything within your power that you knew, but you don't know what you don't know. And so when you and I met, I did your strategy session to see if we wanted to bring you on as a client, if we thought it was going to be a good fit for you. And ultimately, I'm glad that we did, because it sounds like it was the right decision. How long were you in this program before you actually saw results that most men, when they see them, they're like, holy crap, is this even real? Can it be this easy? Because I always say, this isn't hard. This is super easy. So thinking back on your first few weeks, how long was it before you saw a win?
Might have been first few days. I mean, it was almost immediate. Yeah, which amplified my buy-in, obviously, because you know, I mean, I'm sure it's not going to surprise you. I'm sure every person feels the same. You join any kind of program, especially after I've been in one that failed or didn't really give me the results. Naturally, skepticism was through the roof, and I wanted to poke holes in everything. And I was like, all right, you're going to give transformation and, see immediate results, say it's easy. All right, I could do this. Like, I could put my mind to anything and do anything. If someone else could do it, I could do it. That's my mindset. Like, it's just a matter of knowledge and effort and timing, So like, all right, I'm going to do it and go all in. And it was freaking easy. It wasn't hard and it was fun. And after a while, it just became who I am. It became natural. It became where it wouldn't work,
So go back to what made it fun for you. So go back to when you first joined in that first 10 days, because people find it really difficult to believe. If you have communication already somewhat established, even if it's logistical about the kids, finances, whatever, you can turn everything around in the other direction in 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you were doing some one-on-one coaching, like on the one-on-one calls? And I had coached you around some stuff that before you did it, said, I think if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but I think you said I'm kind of nervous, like I have butterflies, because this is so different, because we were doing some pattern interrupts.
Yeah.
And do you remember some of those moments? I would say, if you'll do this, this will be the outcome. And then can you describe, was it the outcome?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm offering right now a free masterclass. And at the end of that masterclass, I'm giving you an opportunity to apply to work with me. The website is denvergriffin.com/masterclass. And if you're enjoying some of this content, please hit that like button and subscribe. I want you to be notified in real time.
Yeah. I mean, every dang time there was, especially at the beginning, like after a while, I would still tell you, all right, well, that's not what I would usually do, but I proof is in the pudding here, but yeah, the first 10 times, 15 times, whatever. Yeah, there was, especially like the very beginning, when it's being different by being indifferent, and that breaking the pattern of confirmation bias, because she had in her mind of who I am, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to say, how I'm going to respond, based off all the relationship evidence that she's had. So in order to break that, narrative of who I am and what she expects, we had to, break some of that. And it was scary as hell, actually, at first. It was my normal reaction, how I wanted to. I mean, I wanted to be way too wordy. I wanted to be emotional. I wanted to be safe for her at times and be like, oh no, I get it. And just, and a lot of the times your advice was no, simple or less, or don't respond right away. Just things that made me look desperate. And I didn't understand how it made me look. And I didn't really understand how I was coming across, or, even how I was being. Like, a lot of it, I didn't realize how feminine the response was even, and it opened my eyes to it all, because everything in me wanted to revert to those patterns. And after seeing so much fruit and so much evidence, I mean, it made it 1,000 times easier to do stuff that I never would have did on my own. I never would have thought to do, when you gave me a heads up on, hey, this is exactly how the response is going to be. Here's what's really happening. Right. So when you see this flipping out, you see this, here's actually what's happening in her mind and behind the scenes. And a day or two later, when that's confirmed that, oh goodness, he's exactly right. After the first 10 times, yeah, any advice she gave me where my natural reaction was, all right, I don't know. I made sure I gave you all the info, made sure you saw the full picture. There was like one or two times where you gave me advice and I was like, okay, are you sure? And I would give you a little more info and you're like, oh, good Lord, thank God you gave me that. Cause yeah, I need the full picture here. That advice might not have worked now that I know this one little aspect. So over communicating really helped. But overall, I mean, I'd say like 99% of the time, your first advice was dead on, and her response and the fruits of doing it was dead on, like the benefits of doing it all.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up because that's the reason that we do the live coaching, the live one-on-one calls, because this program addresses every problem. But here's the thing. Sometimes what works in this marriage, we may need to get to do something else in another marriage because people are different. They respond differently. And the reason that the live, in addition to the trainings, but the reason that the live teachings where you can jump on and actually ask your question, I can respond specifically to your question. The reason that's so vitally important is because the guy over here has this issue, but maybe when you talk about it, your issue has a red barn in the background, and that could be vitally important to doing it a little bit different way. And so, of course, we're going to give you distant coaching. Or sometimes maybe in the training, the wife doesn't respond to this, but we have another way to deal with that in case they don't. There's always a plan B because we're dealing with real life and real humans. What's interesting, though, to me, would you say that even though you had been through another program that was designed to save marriages, 8 weeks, and then other stuff that you tried on your own, how much of the stuff do you think that I told you, even in the first 3 weeks in the training and the one-on-ones, was the exact opposite of what you would have done without that teaching?
Good bit. yeah, good bit, And I like the why. Yeah, a lot of it. Like the why was, I mean, I need to talk about cost and, the cost of letting this drag out further. And I mean, it's so much higher. It was so much higher than the cost of getting a little uncomfortable at first, Yeah, the idea of her, like me going all in, she's going to see, like, we get to spend the Christmas together as a family. We get to, whatever else happens going forward, we get to do that. Like the cost of me being uncomfortable at first and, because it was uncomfortable at first, but it was easy. It really was like, it wasn't this crazy, like, I'm sweating my tail off having to go through it. It was the uncomfortable part was like wanting to do more and wanting like my natural instinct.
Yeah. So I was going to say it's like less. We realize that like less is more. Less is better in this coaching. It's so cool.
Well, and certainly different is better as well.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So Corey, so as you pace through this, I saw the transformation in you when you would jump on the Q&A calls.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see the transformation in your wife right away. Can you describe that a little bit? Because this program addresses both. So how can this program change somebody that we haven't met? Just like how can you be diagnosed by a counselor that's never met you, which is a very normal thing in counseling when one person's doing counseling separately from their spouse. Describe that a little bit. How did this program change your wife because she wasn't in the program and you saw changes fast?
So very fast. So she had been stonewalling, obviously, and she had been a little manipulative and a little dishonest about a lot of things. Yeah, it's all normal stuff. It's knowing that it was normal and knowing all the examples that you had of showing that, hey, amazing people, great people do these same things. It's a defense mechanism and it's it's a survival thing. It made it a lot easier for me to empathize with her while she was going through it all. But a lot of that, like all these things that she claimed were happening behind the scenes and, I have to be this way. And all these, she started slowly but surely putting them down and, and accepting my leadership again. And she started to prioritize me again and prioritize our family and being honest and just, it's been a massive change. There's so many examples I could say, but I mean, the biggest ones is just the temperament, essentially. Like she started flirting with me. Like we started, but whereas before any kind of look or anything like that, it got met with contention. It was her seeking me at times, and that was something that I didn't think was going to happen for a while. I didn't see.
how many days or weeks had you been in the program before you started seeing not only her like talking to you again, maybe as a friend, but before it became even like a little bit more flirty?
Um, It'd be a lot of saying to exact, probably 2-3 weeks in, but we're because of the kids and all that, we had a lot more interaction than a lot of other people do. But it was still that separation where we were never in the same house together. And that about 3 weeks in started to not be important to her anymore, to where, she'd ask me to stay and ask me to stay late and help. And I'd end up crashing in another room, but we'd stay up all night talking, or we'd, be doing things together, or she'd invite me to events and things like that, to where we're doing a lot of family things together and building new relationship histories,
Yeah. She was seeing her change in you as you went.
Yeah. Yep.
After the transformation process has taught you how to actually see into her heart, would you say, at what moment during this process would you say that you saw in yourself the confirmation bias that you had against her, and how this program helped you see that and to deal with it? Talk just a little bit about that. I don't think any other program addresses that, and that's the reason I want to kind of bring that up just briefly.
Yeah, no, that was more towards the end, I'd say. Maybe not like 5-6 weeks in, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it came more along the lines because I didn't realize how unfair it was to, like, my happiness was 100% dependent on her for the most part. Like, I identified as her husband, and this had been going on for years, ever since my middle child was born, which is her oldest. Our whole relationship, like, I got put on the back burner essentially, and, which is pretty common. And instead of expressing it well, instead of like us working through that or expressing it or doing things to rectify it, I would shut down and, just my happiness was dependent upon her way too much. And at first, as I'm going through the transformation process and all that, and she almost got resentful that I was able to find happiness whether with her or not, and she started to see it and acknowledge it. Hey, I'm so glad you're able to be happy through all this, because I'm not, and it was almost building resentment until I made it clear that no, like, we have no future if my happiness is dependent upon you. You make me happy. You definitely make me happy. And I hope we can get to the point where you're the person that makes me the happiest. But it's not fair to you to have my happiness solely dependent upon you. Because then when I'm unhappy, like, you got to feel like crap. Like, you got to feel guilty, or, it's not fair to you.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's selfish. It's such selfish pressure that honestly, I thought it was normal. I felt, well, yeah, spouses are supposed to be that source for each other. And it removes so much opportunity for intimacy and trust, because, when I was unhappy, I shut down, and that's not fair to her. So after a while, when I got to that point to where, hey, I could be happy without you. And, I can, if, you continue with this route of, going through the divorce, doing all that, I'd survive and I'd be just fine. It wasn't a preference, but that changed everything for her. Cause the bias she had towards, like we talked about at the beginning, to where anything I did, she saw it with this filter of, oh, he's selfish. Oh, he's got this ulterior motive. Oh, he's just trying to win me back. Oh, this ain't genuine. Like, everything was seen in a different light with the filter, this lens that she had up. She put the lens down. When she saw that, hey, my happiness and everything is dependent upon you, she started seeing my actions as genuine and started to, trust that the transformation was real. It just took a little while for her to see that the cost of trusting in the transformation was less than the cost she's going to have to pay to come back into marriage.
Yeah,
the last 2 weeks.
Beautiful. Corey, I want to ask you a question, kind of looking back in hindsight on everything now. So, like, you went through another program, you were doing everything that you could, trying to get her to work on the marriage because you love your wife. Do you think the reason, looking back on it, before you came into this transformation program, do you think one of the reasons she saw that as selfish or manipulative the things that you were trying because you loved her and you wanted your family restored with a good heart. Looking back on it now, do you see that maybe those things were selfish and manipulative? Do you see those actions prior to differently than you do now?
Some of them for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
You know, like I genuinely, like a lot of the things I did and said was genuine. It was heartfelt, you know, and with pure intentions. A lot of other ones were 100% with the goal in mind of, all right, let's hope this gets this, you know, or hey, hopefully if I do this, she'll give me this, or, you know, it was a transaction versus, you know, a heartfelt, you know, effort or, you know, something that was genuine.
Where I want to go with that just a little bit deeper, though, is even the things that were genuine. Like, I know they were real. Like, you know, I know they had good intentions behind them, but after you've transformed and you think differently, even the stuff that genuinely was genuine, I know when she and I went through this, looking back on it, I did things that were very genuine in my heart. Like, they were real. But after I had a paradigm shift in understanding things, not just through her eyes, but also through my new eyes. Looking back on those things, I saw how they actually were just selfish, not intentionally. I didn't see it. I didn't get it. But now I do see it and I get it. Like, does that that's something that you can relate to, or no? No right or wrong answer.
100%. No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. There was a good bit of stuff that were like that, yeah, were pure thoughts behind it. I didn't think I was being manipulative, but selfish for sure, you know. And there's certain, like I said, certainly other things that looking back that, yeah, was controlling or, you know, was definitely.
And you didn't know it. You didn't know it was controlling at the time, right?
Yeah, it was your truth.
Yep.
Right. When we want to protect our family and do what's in the best interest of our family, that can be very, very controlling, and us not know it until, because we don't know what we don't know. Nobody teaches us this stuff. That's what we do here, is teach this stuff.
Right.
So think about some of the books that are on the market. Like, men are from Jupiter and women are from Pluto. Those kind of things. His needs, her needs, those kind of things.
Right.
So we won't really, maybe on a future call, maybe your wife would be open to jumping on one of these. And we're certainly would appreciate that if she's open to that. But just looking at this from your perspective, would you ever buy the book, His Needs? And if depending on your answer, why?
No.
Why not?
Because I should know my own needs, right? Like, you know, I'm not sitting there thinking about it.
Has your perception of needs changed in this transformation journey?
Yeah, 100%. I don't really have like needs. I got wants, I got preferences, you know, but I need food, I need water, I need.
What were your needs? What were your needs before coming into this program, and what are they now?
I needed to be patted on the back. I needed to feel good. I needed, you know, I needed my pride fluffed. I needed companionship. I needed to be wanted. I needed my wife. You know, I needed to see my family every day. I needed to, you know, I had so many needs. I needed to be growing. So many needs versus there's preferences, strong preferences, like strong desires, absolute life goals, but it wasn't gonna, like, now it's not gonna change my happiness or my, you know, my outcome. Like, it's not. Yeah, it's a completely different approach, you know.
So you brought up one of the needs. I need my wife. A lot of the men that look at coming into this program, like probably 20% of them are to the point of being suicidal because they need their marriage, they need their wife so much.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question for you today, after completing 7 weeks and a few days past that. For you to have a good life, do you need your wife?
No. I don't. Like, to have the life I want. I definitely want my wife.
It's a personal preference. And by you not needing her anymore, how much pressure has that took off of her?
A lot. I'd say an awful lot. Like, her whole demeanor changed. You know, like I said, at first it was almost negative at first for her, because I think she was a little bit into being needed and wanted, you know, like rightfully so. It felt good to want.
I actually got when he started portraying the fact of like, well, I want us, but I don't have to have this. I'm not going to die if I don't have us. It hurt my feelings, and I got a little bit mad, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you got pissed off.
yeah, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
feeling fine. Then I definitely don't want us. But then I saw the difference in him, and I was like, okay, so I like this. I like where he's going with this. And then I actually got it. But at first, when he said that to me, I was like, what?
It is. It's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
When a woman's wanting out of the marriage, she's in a pressure cooker. And when you no longer need the marriage, she'll sense that. And before, the enemies of the marriage were the pressure relief valve on the
And
pressure
it's
cooker.
literal pressure.
And that's where she was letting off steam.
Yeah.
When you no longer need the marriage, she will sense that paradigm shift. And you all of a sudden become the pressure relief valve where now it's safe for her to come off and let off steam with you.
Right.
And that's where the paradigm shift starts in communication. And she'll even come to you and start bitching about you, which is a good thing because she's not doing it to the enemies of the marriage where they're aiding. And so that's why I say when you start this journey, we could literally see confirmation bias on an MRI of your spouse. 7 weeks after, we can see where there's actually a new neural pathway through a series of pattern interrupts and through your leadership,
Right.
where we're putting her on a new train of thoughts, of possibilities. And you can't, the human brain is efficient and it's not wired to think two thoughts at the same time. So it's beautiful to see that. So Corey, in closing, the framework inside of this program is to maintain a positive, polite, and playful attitude, to be different by being indifferent. We're just letting the cat out of the bag with all of this.
Yeah.
How to not be married to outcomes. How to see into her with an intimacy letter. When you were going through it, we called it the apology letter, but I'm renaming it. How to get her to see you. The psychology of pattern interrupts and when to do them. And what do you really need in a marriage versus the wants? And then most importantly is understanding how to psychologically and correctly and artfully text and talk to your spouse.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've made changes in all of these areas that are real for the rest of your life in 7 weeks?
Yeah, every damn one of them. Yeah.
Isn't that a freaking beautiful thing?
Yeah.
So,
It's awesome.
And the next question is, through your leadership in these things, psychologically, have you enrolled your wife into changing in most of those areas as well?
Absolutely. And yeah, 100%. And like it's an ongoing thing constantly, you know? So that, I mean, literally when she came back into marriage and, you know, she's pushing hard for, all right, we got to do this, we got to do that, and all these different things.
Yeah.
And being able to explain to her the fact that you're even kissing me and we're even sleeping in the same bed, all that should go to show you that other shit that wasn't working, that, you know, we need to continue on this path that's worked, that got us here. You know, this path. Yeah. Like let's keep doing that and then see, you know, before we go jump back on the crazy train, you know?
And you kind of enrolled her in doing that through a date night last night. Will you share a little bit about how that went last night, just 5 days after the restoration? Will you share where you guys are at now, just 5 days out?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's might have been our best date night we've ever had. You know, we've been together 10 years. Yeah. Married 6, coming up in April. Yeah, it's been great. So last night we had an amazing dinner. You know, we sat on the same side of a booth and we're flirting and kissing like teenagers. You know, we went out to a little festival and we're dancing, and yeah, we had an absolute blast. Till we scheduled more, like we're going out either tonight or tomorrow, you know, got weekend plans. You know, we spent every night having a blast, you know. And yeah, at first she wanted to dig deep and dive into hard topics and all these different things and I've been positive, polite, and playful through it all. I haven't like shut down like, oh, absolutely not. We're not doing it. No, I've been understanding and polite through it, but making sure she understands that like we can't do the same things we did in the past and expect a different result. Like we focusing on the past. Like if it's something that's still ongoing, we need to address it in a timely manner. at the right time. But if we're constantly bringing up negatives or doing things like that, working on the marriage when it's not the time to, and it squashes all the joy and all the fun that we're supposed to be having and that life's about. Like we schedule our weekly business meeting, and we're going through the important things that we have to together and at the appropriate time. And otherwise we're just living and having fun and enjoying each other and enjoying the good things in life. And it's taken a lot of,
That's beautiful. Corey, so you've had some good years in your marriage in the 10 years that you guys have been married. How do you see the next 10 years now that you know what you know? What's up here?
Oh, I can't wait, man. It's looking forward to it all. It's going to be healthier, happier, more joyful. Like, a lot of the issues that I was dealing with, I'm able to, lack of a better term, overcome quickly now and focus on the things that bring us joy and fulfillment. So yeah, and there's a lot that she has to deal with that through all this I'm seeing that I now feel like we have the tools to do so to help her overcome stuff that has been bothering her whole life, that we've kind of swept under the rug and she swept under the rug that I think she'll be able to release, knowing that it's safe because we have safety in our marriage now. We have safety in our friendship. Whether she fully realizes it or not, the way she's treating and the things she says and does, you don't do that unless there's full safety, unless there's full trust. And I see it. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you feel safe,
Well, it's a beautiful thing though when your spouse feels comfortable enough to, this is something that I see, and then we'll close with this. Do you feel like that maybe you're now in a position to understand what it truly means to actually be soulmates, which can only be achieved with complete intimacy? Do you feel like you're a different man as far as the way you are up here on how you see into your wife and actually understand now, maybe for the first time and forever, maybe not, I don't know, that you're married to?
Yeah, 100%.
I think your date after 5 days being the most fun romantic date that you guys maybe have ever had, according to your words, I think that's evidence of what's to come. So, Corey, what would you say to any man right now that's looking at this program and they've invested a good chunk of change in another program that ended up not being an investment to save the marriage? It ended up being an expense. And now they're looking at, okay, here's this program. And does this really work? Or should I just pursue the divorce proceedings and pay the price of divorce, especially if you have kids, you pay it the rest of your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you say if somebody's on the fence because they've been screwed by doing another program? They were out a big chunk of change and now they're looking at lawyers and money's tight. What would you say to any man that's on the fence about, my situation's hopeless. I don't know if I'm buying it. What would you tell them?
I'd say you already understand the idea of investment. You already understand the risk of investing in a program or something like that to try to get the future and the family you want. And don't let pride of, oh, I messed up and chose the wrong one, or I did this, or I'm going to have to eat crow and explain this eventually to my wife if this actually works. You lower the pride and do it, because if you go all in, the longer you wait, you're actually harming your family, you're actually harming your kids, you're harming yourself and your wife. No telling what the consequences are the longer it goes on, there's so many potentials that could happen the longer it goes on versus starting the rebuilding process, the date nights like we're having, the nights we're having, we've had every single night since my wife's come back has been awesome. It's even the nights where it's hey, we go to bed after we put the kids to sleep and all that. It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. Curiosity, which leads to intimacy, which leads to sexual passion. That's what makes a marriage beautiful.
Okay.
So being on the inside of this and coming through the transformation, what would you say would be the risk to anybody considering it?
The risk is doing something different. You're risking having a mind shift, or the risk of getting the answers and holding on to your pride too long to where you're not willing to go all it. Because I see how someone could come into the program And if their pride is too high that they're not willing to get a little uncomfortable and do what's necessary at first and trust that, man, the evidence it doesn't lie. Like the proof doesn't lie. The why doesn't lie. You just got to step out your comfort zone. It's not hard work, but it could be a little uncomfortable at first, you know? It's like you were talking about, everybody's got different, like when you got to break the confirmation bias and you got to, the pattern interrupts, everybody's patterns are different. You know, some people are aggressive, some people are soft, some people whatever. So the pattern interrupts is going to be uncomfortable as hell for a lot of people, you know, but it's easy. It's really easy. It's just, I mean, you give the pathways on how to do it. So the risk, I guess, there is man, you got to risk being a little uncomfortable at first, but the payoff is 10 freaking fold. You know, it's not even, it's exactly what you even research a program like this for. So why are you looking at a program like this if the payout isn't worth a little uncomfortableness?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but the uncomfortableness dissipates after you see that it works, right?
You do. Being comfortable in the process. Yeah.
Like I said, it got fun. It got fun after a while because you see win after win after win, and the fruits of it, it's uncomfortable because it's not what I normally would have did. It's not what I normally would have said. But once that mind shift happened, now it's 100% normally what I say and do. Now it is. It's not uncomfortable at all. It's pretty simple.
None of what we do here is normal. None of it's normal. But it can be normal when somebody is taught through knowledge, understanding, and wisdom how to make it their normal and give them their best life ever. So anyway.
Amen. It's been absolutely life-changing.